Good morning, Year 9 English students. So today we're going to be going along with our persuasive writing focus. So yesterday we had a look at two particular pieces. We had a look at one opinion piece and as well as a letter to the editor. So with our persuasive writing task due next week, I thought it'd be a great idea to start going through our ICTAP structure as well as our body paragraphs. So firstly, could I get you to open up your analysing argument booklets to Sam's letter to the editor on page 5 that we looked at the other day? And as well, Kevin, could I get you to pass around one of these to every student? So what Kevin is going to pass around is just a little handout which will take us through ICTAP and our body paragraphs, and I'll explain it in a little bit more detail. So firstly, let's start with I for issue. What would I mean by issue?
What has been happening in the news?
Yeah, great, Rafi. So when we're thinking about the issue, we're sort of discussing what has prompted this article. So we're thinking about the context. You might also like to discuss the differing attitudes towards the issue. For example, with our topic of e-scooters, you might like to say something like, the widely publicised e-scooter initiative has incited, sparked or roused up debate between increasingly concerned conservative pedestrians as well as progressive e-scooter enthusiasts. So something like that. So see how I've succinctly talked about the context of the issue as well as talking about developing opinions surrounding the issue. So, contention. What would I mean by contention? The clue's in the word.
What does the author think or feel about the issue?
Yeah, great work, Sarah. So, what does the author think or feel or contend? So, what is their viewpoint of the issue? So, in our letter, Sam from Brunswick suggests that e-scooters are dangerous and that we don't have the sufficient regulation measures in place to deal with them or to incorporate them into society. So, tone. Tone is a really important part of persuasive writing. What is the tone of the author? So, can someone have a go at describing Sam's tone?
Logical?
Yep, that's a great starting point, but let's take it further. So, logical, measured, fair, didactic, reasonable. And as well, can you spot a change in tone throughout the letter? These are the sort of things you should consider when you're starting to annotate your article. And again, with tone, what can really help is reading the piece aloud. So sometimes your ears can pick up on things that your eyes might miss. So don't underestimate the power of the ears when we're trying to discover or investigate a particular tone. So moving on to the audience, who is the intended audience for the piece? So who would be the audience?
People who read the newspaper?
Great, Rafi, but which people? So of course we could suggest it might be the general readership of a certain newspaper, but let's go a step further. We might think, who are the types of people that read that newspaper? So we might suggest that the Herald Sun might be a slightly more conservative audience, whereas the Age might be more progressive. So then you start to think about how the persuasive writing will affect this particular audience. Now, purpose. Why has the author written this piece? What does the author intend, or what does the author want his or her intended audience to think, feel, or do as a result of this article? So here, I really want you to think about those powerful adverbs. The author compels, urges, conducts, aims, provokes, calls for action. So those forceful adverbs, they really carry those added emphasis. So we might say in our piece, Sam challenges his readership to share his concern for e-scooters and aims to call for their immediate termination. So something like that. So we've covered the ICTAP for our introduction paragraphs, but these are the three key questions I want you to consider for analysing your body paragraphs. So what, how, and why. So what is the author arguing in this section of the article? How is the author doing this? Give examples using persuasive language. So are there persuasive techniques that you can identify? Do you see any anecdotes, appeal to logic? What other persuasive techniques have we talked about?
Emotions, rhetorical questions, hyperboles.
Hyperboles, that's exactly right, Rafi. So, lastly, what is the author doing? What is the intended effect on the reader? This is perhaps the most important part of persuasive writing. This is where we need to go that extra step. So we're not just simply investigating or citing persuasive language, but we're evaluating its effect. So now, remembering, we've got our ICTAP structure for the introduction paragraph, and we've got our what, how, and why key questions for the second, for the body paragraph. So these are really the most important tools that will guide your persuasive writing analysis.